Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim Paola and Johnny C. live on Real Radio.
Good Saturday morning to you. Welcome to another edition of Florida Talk Real Estate. 2 hours of infotainment is what we promise. Thanks for being there to take the offering. Whether you're on the old terrestrial radio, 92.1 or 101.7, great to have you along. We live stream every Saturday. You can find us at one of two places. On Facebook, Florida Talk Real Estate, live streaming on a Saturday, and on YouTube as well, Florida Talk Real Estate LLC. You got a live stream there as well, plus home of a ton of informational chunk videos. Again, thank you very much for being with us. You're welcome to be a part of the program. It's toll free. Questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate, want to dive into the conversation, hit us up, 877-927-6969. The first voice you'll hear, the melodious tones of our producer extraordinaire, Jimothy. Good morning, my brother from another mother.
Hello, and good morning, Mr. C. How you doing today, buddy?
Phenomenal. Thank you very much for asking. Always good to see you.
See you too.
I am your old buddy, your old pal, Johnny C. Your air traffic control on a Saturday. Let's get your starting lineup. It's always a pleasure to say good morning to Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Ross, how are you, dude?
I am doing well. Good morning. Good
Nice
morning.
to see you.
It's nice to see you too. You look amazing.
Well, that's the nicest thing anybody said to me so far today.
Well, I'm glad I could be the one.
Thank you very much for breaking the seal. You look pretty top shelf as well, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Speaking of top shelf, and I think everybody might be looking good because we got a new hookup going on in here. Jimmy D has definitely teched us up in here. That's our fearless leader. I've told you for 12 plus years now, he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Innovations. You find the Florida Home Pros team. And my guy, Jimmy D, there's Jim DePolo, who's now super techie. Look how awesome everything looks in here. What's up, Jimmy D? Oh, yeah, microphone to help. Oh, what's up?
Mr. Techie. Okay, yeah. Happy South Florida, everybody.
What's up?
Hey, how's it going, man? I'm so glad that you made it with 30 seconds to spend. You're such a pro.
Cut it.
Sits down, all relaxed. No
Pros,
big deal.
pros.
Right before you got here, the three of us were arguing who was going to be you, and nobody wanted to be you.
Say, Ross, you bring us.
So that was
No, I
funny.
want to be Johnny. I just don't want to have to say what he has to say.
Hey, very soon, audience world out there, we the Florida Talk Real Estate Show is going to be besides terrestrial radio. If you want to catch us live, try to get in the habit of going to YouTube as opposed to Facebook, because eventually we might only be able to stream at one place. The good news is that's the sad news, but everybody's got YouTube, right? So as long as you have internet, you got YouTube. It isn't like, oh, I don't have an account. But the good news about that is because we're getting new camera equipment, which means we're going to have better video quality, which means our short reels and everything will be better, and our package show will be better in the long run. So this is all good stuff really coming up. We're trying out some 4K equipment right now. You might be hearing my computer humming in the background. Can anybody hear that humming?
Sounds like a fan running. Yeah. I can hear it.
Sorry about
That's
that.
all right.
My phone. I hope my computer will last through this. And I have a good computer.
It's not happy.
Yeah, it's not a happy
No.
computer right now. You're taxing me.
I have no idea what the difference between 4K, HD, 1080. I don't know. I just turn on the
I
TV,
only know the
whatever's on, I
words.
just look at
It
it.
looks good.
I only
Yeah.
know the words. I don't know the technology done it. We've been messing around with the cameras in this studio for now like 3-4 years, and it failed constantly. But we keep pushing forward because we don't give up. We don't fall back for anybody.
No, there's
we
no
always
quitting.
spring forward.
That's right.
I got to tell you,
Absolutely.
Jim, looking at it from my end, I can definitely see the difference. So it's well worth it. The quality difference between the cameras. So
Yeah, you and Johnny look
And
amazing.
what I'm looking forward to is we're going to have what I'm expecting is just a 4-camera setup. So
Mhm.
everybody's going to have a camera on, and we'll have a 4th camera that'll be like the everything camera. And then later we're going to be able to package up the show and really show the different angles and it more feel like a TV show.
Are you still planning on the upskirt for Jimothy?
Yeah, no cameras on his side.
Oh, all right.
We're
Not
gonna
allowed.
call it the Jimmy Cam.
The upskirt, yeah.
Matter of fact, every
Jimmy
Saturday,
Cam.
the first thing I do is unplug my camera. That's the first thing I do every Saturday.
First thing. So, but enough about that stuff. We're on 92.1 and 101.7 FM, which is the important stuff. And we are on iHeartRadio Live. So we're only talking about reruns. When you want to see the stuff live, you're going to iHeartRadio and you're going to 92.1 and 101 FM. Okay, we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to be talking about Florida becoming the squatters' heaven. A lot of stuff happened with squatters. I have my own squatter story. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Johnny, you and I got to talk about this inflation report that just came out and all of that. I read some really interesting stuff digging deep yesterday, getting a little wonky last night about credit card debt. And I thought that would be interesting for you and I to talk about. And of course, how that affects how all of this ties into the real estate market. We're going to continue with Ross Komarinetz from Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, the only Brightway office you want to think about when you're thinking insurance. We're going to have Ross and I continue our conversation from last week. I got a little bit some hard stats of some of the facts we learned about last week. First of all, for the first time in several years, some of the insurance companies are reporting profits, right? I found out where those profits are coming from. Everybody's going to be surprised because I know I was. And then we're also going to talk about how Florida might have been ground zero for insurance companies pulling out because they think there's too much risk involved. We were ground zero for that, but it looks like we're not the only one. We were the first one, the first in line, and we found out a little bit more information about that. We're going to talk about that too. We're also going to talk about, I still find this to be a very interesting part of the market, which is where people are moving, not just people are moving, but where they're moving to and where they're moving from.
Right.
I have some new statistics that came out of a lot of Floridians are moving to this specific state. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised because most people think of this state as an exit state, not an entrance state, if you will. And we're going to talk about where they're moving to in this exit state that everybody thinks everybody's fleeing. So I thought that was all kind of interesting stuff.
Excellent.
But let's get into the squatter stuff first, okay? Because I think this is kind of interesting.
Squatter's going to squat.
Yes, I had a old high school buddy, recent customer, Gary, called me from Orlando. Gary, I knew him from high school, but he called me about a year ago or so, and maybe even less than that. And he was moving from another state back to Orlando. So I got him to a top agent over there, and they helped him find the new home. Gary did not work with me to find the seller of his home in that other state. Gary wishes he did after he went through everything and found the top agent he had in Orlando. He wished he had it in the other state.
Yeah.
So we can help people with that, where you help them sell their house in another state, buy down here, anywhere in Florida, anywhere in the country. But we did that for Gary. So Gary and I have kept in touch now, and he was talking about the squatter situation. And, it's been all over the news. You guys have been hearing about this, right? The whole squatter thing.
Well, because our state in particular just had some
The bill that
new legislation in regards to squatters and their lack of rights now.
That's correct.
That was one of my favorite terms always. Squatters' rights. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
What?
it is kind of true. I've been dealing with squatters since 2003 probably. Well, no, that's not true. Since like 2006, 2007. That's when we had the crash. We had the most vacant houses. Remember, we had the zombie houses, Johnny?
Yeah.
They call them zombie
neighborhoods.
yeah, exactly. Zombie neighborhoods, right? The houses were so empty that people were remember, they were always stealing the copper from the air conditioning units.
Oh,
back
yeah.
then.
Yeah,
You
that was a
all
big
that
deal. I
stuff.
remember
That was
that,
a
yeah.
big deal.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, that must have drove you crazy, Ross, right? With all that stuff. But all that was happening and everything was going nuts. And we were getting squatters back then, right? Squatters were happening back then because the economy was really bad. I've been noticing that there's this TikToker. I don't want to call him a kid. He's probably a young man. He's probably in his 30s, but he was, I think he was from Venezuela. He claims he's an illegal immigrant. Have you heard about this guy?
Mhm.
and he's telling people how to squat in houses and to use the laws against them to stay in places.
Johnny, squatters' rights.
Yeah, squatters' rights. It's funny because this guy, like, has been almost like packaged like he's the reason we even got this legislation.
It's so true.
Like, our legislators were like, "Oh no, we can't have people teaching folks how to do this. We gotta stop this right now." Like, it's funny how many different news sources I've read where they're almost like crediting this guy for the reason we're having this legislation.
Power of social media, right?
Truly.
In my opinion, the guy's not, the most ethical person in the world. And I want to say a word that starts with SC in it, BAG. But the thing is that you got to give him a lot of credit as being an entrepreneur, right? He creates this TikTok channel. He's probably making so much money off the views off of those videos right now. But I heard he got busted or something, right? If I'm not mistaken. I saw a jail photo, but I couldn't tell if it was an old photo from when he came here and got kicked out the first time, or if it was a recent arrest. I didn't know, like, they got him, they pinched him after all this publicity.
I mean, what's your crime?
Well, he's illegal. He's an illegal.
I mean, that clearly doesn't matter
today. I don't know why that even is.
What would be his
contrary to popular opinion, if you come over here illegally, you can be arrested. That doesn't mean you are going to be, but you can be arrested.
Right?
People forget
that doesn't seem to happen. And if you do, you walk out.
Yeah, and just come right back in the other door, right?
Well, yeah.
So, like, just go out that one, come right back in that one, right?
So the squatter thing, like when Gary called up, I said to Gary, I've been reading some of the stuff, and I saw that the governor had passed a squatters law, right? And or regulation, I should say. I guess it's a law, right?
It is,
so
yeah.
he passed the law and everything. But what I wanted to know is how common this is, because we're pretty heavily involved in the real estate market, my team, and we've been around doing this a long time. And we did get popped with one squatter back in 2013, 2014. We were short selling a house in Lake Worth. I even remember the people's names, but Chris was one of the owners, right? He was a school teacher, and they were in really big trouble on their house. They were very upside down, so we were going to short sale the house. It was the best option for the family. They had the right to short sell it. They had the right hardship and everything. But, that was like a 9-month process back then when you did a short sale. The bank took 9 months to decide if they're going to do the short sale or not.
Sure.
So in that meantime, they were like a lot of people that were in trouble with their house. They moved out before the bank decided what to do with them, because they just felt, because usually a lot of like the just normal people that are just do the right thing, they think, hey, I'm not paying my mortgage, I can't live here anymore. But that isn't the way it works in banking world. You could stay there until they decide what to do with you.
It should have.
So they moved right, because you get
they should have been the squatters.
Right,
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they moved out, and we were on the radio show, Johnny, and the phone was blowing up. This is back when we were called Talk Real Estate with Rob and Jim.
All right, nice.
So Rob was on the show.
I have a Tumblr, Travis
I
Tumblr.
still have one of them too. I kept them. One day I'm going to do a social media thing with all the different names of the show and the names of my company that have evolved over the time, because there's a lot.
Yeah. It's the continuity. Well,
the continuity
together.
There is, the only continuity is great service and great information for people.
That's true.
But what happened was the phone was blowing up during our show. We were only an hour-long show back then, right? So Rob stepped out because the phone was blowing up, such a big deal. He stepped out of the studio. This is when I think we were in Port St. Lucie, right? And he stepped out. Yeah, 14. Yeah.
Definitely.
And he finds out that the realtor called him and said, hey, look, we're trying to show your property. We went over there. We knocked on the door. The owners came out and they said that they're not selling the property anymore, and they wouldn't let us in. And Rob's like, I think that house is vacant. You had to go to the wrong house. And she's like, no, I went to the right house, I'm sure. He's like, you went to the wrong house, right? So he hangs up, gets back in, we're on the show. Phone blows up again. He steps out. The lady's like, I'm at the right house. And she snaps a picture and shows him, like, on the phone. So then we call the owner, Chris, and say, hey, Chris, did you put renters in your house? Sometimes people did that, like they rented it out while they were waiting. Chris is like, no. And he goes, well, somebody's over your house right now, dude. And so it was right towards the end of the show. So as soon as the show ended, me and Rob hopped in our cars, drove down to the house. By the time we got there, the police were just surrounding the house, and there were like 6 police cars out there. And those squatters it was a family, and they were so cool about the whole thing. They didn't seem concerned that there were 5 police cars, like not just parked in the street and stuff. They were parked on the front yard and the side of the house. Like they surrounded the house, right? And guns drawn.
Jeez.
Yeah. And
Welcome
this
to Florida.
family's
What
out
county
there,
was it?
and they had Lake Worth, and they had a lease. And they're telling the police officer they have every legal right to be there, and here's the lease. And of course, Chris is standing there as the homeowner, and he's like, I don't know who you are, and I'm the landlord, and I'm not the landlord, I'm the owner, and I didn't sign anything with you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So the police went in and looked at the house. I don't remember how they got in, but they were allowed in. Either they let them in or they were allowed in, right? Either for whatever. And they found they found a weight scale. And drug residue looked like crack cocaine or cocaine or something like that. Drug residue and scales and stuff like that. And they didn't do anything other than kick him out of the house. So they said, if you leave right now, go. And they didn't arrest anybody. But Chris got control of his house back, had to change all the locks, right? We had to be more careful about doing that.
Oh.
So in that case, we were able to push them out as soon as we found out about it.
Well, it sounds like the kind of the weight of, hey, we can try to pin these drugs on you, or you can leave. And they're like, all right, we're gonna pack our stuff up.
You know what?
Yeah.
You can have that.
You got it.
Yeah.
We're gonna go find the next.
Here's your fake lease back.
I didn't like that scale that much anyway.
Yeah, that was,
So
that was off.
what I don't get about the concept of this whole squatter thing is that if they claim they have rights to the house, either as a leasee or something, right, that automatically turns it into a civil infraction. Therefore, the police really can't do anything about it. You got to go through the civil courts.
Right.
And that it takes so long to go through the civil courts that it really rips off the homeowner from, these squatters really take advantage of the homeowner because they could stay there for a very long time.
That's the point of the new legislation, though, right? So
Right.
the cops can actually have a little bit of enforcement as long as the quote unquote squatters don't have some kind of verification they belong there. And that usually means mail or some kind of proof that you've been there.
Well, and so I've
Right.
this is always, or the squatter thing's been a hot topic, but I've heard that like in some places, if you get mail sent there, that's your place.
Yeah,
Once you start receiving mail, like that's your place.
I think that's in everything I've read about how they've crafted this law that's one of those aspects that if you can be like, oh, see, I get mail here. So there's always that little there's cracks, right?
I could have my mail delivered to your house tomorrow.
I could go get a placard at the post office and be like, here's my new address.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, they're forwarding my mail over
I can't
there.
wait to get Johnny's house.
Well,
Man, that thing's so awesome.
Right, exactly.
Be
Well,
on the beach every day.
Resurface the pool too, so we're in good shape.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
new fence.
This is
Oh,
what
yeah.
I'm not sure about, though. Like hearing what you just mentioned, everything. That's what Gary was mentioning, what he's seeing on the news and all this, and people taking advantage. I'm not saying it's wrong, okay, but that hasn't been my experience dealing with these issues in the past, because tons of people have called us over the years saying they need somebody out of their house and they don't know how to do it, right? Not necessarily squatters. Sometimes it's people that had a lease and then they stopped paying or something like that, or things like that. I always have them go down to this one lawyer down in Broward County that specializes in landlording and also tenants' rights. So he's a specialist in both, and he's been doing it for 40 years, right? And I want to get him on the show, but he was too busy this week to talk about it.
With all those squatters.
Yeah, exactly. the experience that we've had when you're trying, it is true. This part I do know it's true just from watching other people's cases. Having a lease, not having a lease when you're a renter gives you more rights than having a lease, right? You have more rights than the lease actually curtails the terms of everything.
Sure.
So by not having a lease, it's more in favor of the tenant.
Yeah, it's just broad.
Yeah.
But you still are able to take the tenant out if you want to, right? So the thing is, I'm not sure. I like the idea that they're giving police more powers to deal with this because it's common sense. If somebody's walking around with a fake lease, right? And the landlord's, I keep calling it a landlord, the owner, because they're not landlord,
Right.
it's fake, right? The owners stand there saying, I never signed this. I don't know who these people are. You know, they're trespassing on my property,
Yeah.
right? They've stolen my property, basically, right? That's the way I look at it. I'm glad they're able to do that. But the civil stuff, if you follow the process the correct way, you fill out all your paperwork right, and you notice the people right, you give them proper notice, and you do everything you're supposed to do, it's usually like a 3-month process or less, from what I understand. And I'm hearing 20 months. Like, I'm reading stuff in the newspapers and stuff saying it's 20 months that some of these people are living here and stuff.
Well, it might be longer than 3 months now, just because everything takes longer now. Everything takes longer now.
That's what I'm wondering, Johnny, is if the reason why this is taking so long for these squatter situations isn't because of the laws, although I'd like to see them tweaked, which they did.
Yeah, they did some pretty common sense things. Like you say, just giving law enforcement a little bit of teeth makes sense. Aside from that, though, this is dubbed feel-good legislation. This is, as you said, how prevalent it is. It's just
because I don't see any articles where they say numbers.
Yeah,
they were saying like 3,000 cases have been filed.
I don't think it's the epitome of feel-good legislation. It's just like, oh yeah, good, and it's all stemmed in illegal immigration.
But there's also that's the pressure point, but or the hot emotional pressure point. But
we got hundreds of guardsmen in Texas working on immigration right now. Florida guardsmen in Texas.
Yep. But here's the thing is I wonder if part of the reason everything's so slow, because we haven't supported our court systems with enough people. One of the problems we have, I know, and I'm just saying this, like the IRS, right? I'm not a big fan of the IRS. I've had problems with the IRS in my past. It's cost me a lot of money, right? But I always took care of it. But now I have a problem that I need help with, and I'm reaching out to them. I can't get anybody on the phone.
No.
When you call the IRS, you have to plan on that whole business day just to be on the phone with the IRS. I've spent 4 full 8-hour days on hold with the IRS to get the same information over a period of a couple months, because I do it for 8 hours and I'd be so frustrated I wouldn't go back for like another month and try it again. And I've done it where I started the first thing in the morning as soon as it's open, to be there for 8 hours and never get anybody. And at the end, this is what they say to you on the recording. I'm sorry, there's not enough time to take your call today. Please call back at another time. And then they hang up on you after 8 hours of sitting on the phone.
That's awesome.
Why is that happening? Because we have stifled their budget so bad, they don't have enough people to take all the calls.
Didn't they just hire like 6,000 people?
I thought that bill was denied. I thought that was the bill. Did they just pass it?
But it's not in the
customer service department. Yeah.
It was I knew they were doing enforcement too, but the original bill that was turned down.
Sadly, Jim, that's just talk about our norm now.
Yeah.
Like, so my wife works in the legal world. It used to be what you could get done in a day at the clerk's office is 2 weeks now. It's 2 weeks. And it's not like, oh, this is just an anomaly. No. This has been building really since COVID. You've just seen the downsizing of, we can get it done with less bodies, and everybody's just you're just gonna deal with it. You know what? They know you're gonna deal with it because you've done 3 times 8 hours on hold to get nothing. And they know you're going to do it again.
You have to. It's the IRS. That's right. Yeah.
Especially with that.
I know. Taxes. It's so sick.
Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting.
But getting back to the squatter thing. So our squatter thing was taken care of pretty fast. The thing I'm wondering is, I agree with you, Johnny, that it just seems like this is almost like a political, like because of the election year and everything.
It's good to give law enforcement.
I'm for it.
Yeah,
I'm for it.
Good.
I've done on the show during the week, we've done at least 6 stories in the past year of squatters that went into homes. I just did one the other day, the house in Hawaii, $500,000 home in Hawaii that squatters went into. And so it is out there. Now, is it out there on a big giant scale?
Nope.
No. But
I heard there's 1,000 in Atlanta.
For
Thousands
real?
of squatters?
1,000 squatters in
Wow.
1,000 homes.
See,
being
that's what
squatted
I'd
on
like
in
to see
Atlanta.
because I haven't seen any numbers. So
No.
I'm not saying that
Sounds
there
like
aren't any
Sounds like
numbers.
they might want to work on some.
Right. I,
Yeah,
I
they
think
should.
I think our legislation was like a warning, more than, like trying to, hey,
Proactive
Yeah.
instead of reactive.
yeah.
Well, yeah, because
Maybe.
if you know there's not much anybody can do, the door's pretty wide open,
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
pun intended. But if you're like, oh, there's a chance that I might, not be able to pull this off, it might thwart you.
Yeah, exactly. There was some sad news kind of related to this. There was a man in St. Lucie County who was shot and killed by a deputy. He was in a foreclosed home. The person bought the house and an investor bought the house in a foreclosure process. There was somebody living there. They said they spent months and months and months trying to get them out. They finally got them evicted. And then the guy came back later that day to get into the house. The police came there to get him back out of the house. He pulled a gun, according to the police reports. And the sheriff's deputy had to shoot him. So, this was the kind of stuff that you were worried about back in when we were doing the short sales and, the foreclosure crisis. There was a lot of squatter talk back then. Do you remember back then everybody said if you went into a vacant home, abandoned home, and you moved in and you stayed there long enough that you had rights, just like the squatters have now. And that was all, that was all hokum. Remember the big myths about short sales and foreclosures back then was number one, the bank can't find the note. So that way I get to keep my house for free. Remember that?
Wasn't there like one guy who's been in his house for like 15 years or something like that?
Yeah,
There's
but
like
that's why it was
dude.
front page news all
Yeah.
over the place because it was so unusual, right? But everybody thought, oh, the bank can't find the note, so I don't have to do anything. It's like a gotcha moment, right? And
Yeah.
they thought the government of the banking system was going to allow that to happen.
Somehow that made sense. Yeah,
Yeah, that was going to
you
work.
can't find
right?
it, so I just own it outright.
Yep.
Yeah.
And but there were a lot of squatters. It was more prevalent back then.
I feel like it was more prevalent then, but I feel like it was the people who were like they went from homeowner to squatter just overnight. You know what I mean? It's not like they moved into a vacant place and became squatters. They just became the squatters.
Exactly. The house was sold in foreclosure. The bank didn't really do anything with the property for a very long time.
Right.
Not even go to check it out sometimes.
Or mow the lawn.
So the people just continued living there and just like, well, until the bank tells me anything, I'm going to stay.
Yep.
Technically, they were squatting at that point. You know what I mean? Definitely. And you know what? The bank paid them usually. The bank paid them to leave, right? They would get usually like $5,000 to leave, right? Because they didn't want to deal with the eviction and everything. So in a way, it was smart to squat back then. But so I just hope
profitable.
The deputy thing in Port St. Lucie, the shooting, a couple of unusual things there. First of all, that's very unusual that that would happen, just horrible. But the other thing is the fact that it was a foreclosure. We know that let's just for the heck of it.
Yeah, those are hard to find around.
Yeah, let's just for the heck of it. Let me because I have it up right now.
In Atlanta, squatters take over 1,200 homes in metro Atlanta. Brazen squatters even opened an illegal strip club on a property they had taken over.
That's
that
fantastic.
I love that. Yeah.
What's the address?
Who's that
Yeah,
person?
that was
Just for investigative purposes.
1747 DeValue Way.
Nice.
Well, if you're gonna do it, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, go big or steal a home.
7 hours and 23 minutes driving, Johnny. What do you say?
Well, I think we got this, brother.
Let's go.
In Palm Beach County right now, there are 13 short sales and foreclosures for sale. 13. That's it in the whole county, right? We got almost 2 million residents in here, I think.
I guess there's probably less in St. Lucie County.
Oh, let's take a look at St. Lucie. Hold on.
Because that's where it happened, right?
Yeah. I don't know why I did sing. I don't know. I'm having a bad day here.
Yeah, you're having a great day. Florida Talk Real Estate is .com.
You
Your
look amazing.
one-stop real estate shop. Always remember
4K camera.
Yeah, doing great.
Great resource for everything from 4K cameras on through your all your professional needs in the world of real estate. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
Okay, so let's see what we got here. We got 6 foreclosures in St. Lucie, that are active and no short sales. So we have 6 properties that are in foreclosure that are active right now. So I think that's kind of interesting, So the fact that that isn't a very common thing right now of people being foreclosed on, stolen the property, that kind of thing doesn't happen that much anymore.
So I'm not super familiar with this situation. So this guy is dealing with a foreclosure. Who called and said he was back at the house? That's a weird one, right? How does law enforcement even know to go there and deal with that? And it doesn't that feel like a weird situation with the foreclosure? The law enforcement's even involved if it's not even foreclosed on yet, like it's in the process.
No, the house was foreclosed on.
Oh, it was.
Then the new owner spent months trying to get the person out.
Okay.
Finally got the legal eviction correctly.
Oh, so it's all in stone. That's why law enforcement.
And then what happens is because I had to do this, I had to evict somebody a long time ago. So I think that after you got the legal eviction, if they didn't get out, you have to notice them to get out within a certain time after the eviction. And then you call up the sheriff's office, and the sheriff's office has an eviction department division.
Right.
And they go out there and they'll make the person get out of the house, and then they'll take all of the belongings and put it to the curb.
Yep.
I have a eviction department. His name is Uncle Vinny.
Uncle Vinny. He's got the bent nose. So
Moose
he's real good at what he does.
Yeah.
Moose and Rocco as assistants.
Yeah. And if you need like any couches or TVs or anything like that, he's got a really good deal on them.
Yeah.
Cigarette speakers.
He'll even deliver to you right out of a box truck.
Yeah.
So these just out of curiosity, since I got it up here, these foreclosures that they got here, one of them's been on the market 100 days. So it's a 1,450 square foot house. It is they're asking 227, and it's a 2.2 in Fort Pierce. It looks kind of nice.
Huh.
Yeah. Anybody's looking for foreclosures, give me a call. There aren't many. Oh, the house does not look nice.
No, just kidding.
The outside looks cute. It's on a lakefront. It's kind of cool.
Oh,
give me a call.
FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
There you go. Hey, I know it's 9:30. We're going to go ahead and take a break. On the flip side, what we're going to do is talk about insurance. We're going to talk about what's happening here in Florida and what's happening in the rest of the country. It might make the people in Florida feel a little better about themselves.
Yay. We need that. We got a lot more to get into on this Saturday. Remember, we offer up 2 hours of infotainment. So if you're doing your math, you're like, ooh, another hour and a half left. That's right. And we got a ton of information for you. It's a quick 4-minute break. If you'd like to be a part of the conversation, maybe you'd like to get on hold now, dial it up, 877-927-6969. Of course, if you're not comfortable on the radio, always remember Florida Talk Real Estate is .com, your one-stop real estate shop. You got all the team, the whole team, all the pros at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. That's why we call it your one-stop real estate shop. Know it, use it, love it, share it. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Back in 4 minutes, Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
We'll be your friend. Follow us at Real Radio 92.1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Real Radio weather.
From the Gordon & Partners Weather Center, have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. The warm-up continues. We will continue to see those temperatures rise throughout the day today, topping out in the upper 70s and low 80s across the area. We'll also start to see clouds build along that sea breeze for the second half of this afternoon. Your Easter Sunday forecast looks very similar. Temperatures cool and comfortable in the morning.
This report is sponsored by Audible. Come to Audible and discover the best selection of audiobooks without exception. Bestsellers, new releases, plus podcasts and exclusive Audible originals. You'll find everything you love all in one place. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rao from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rao will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rao, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modification, get a student loan modification, and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Yeah, I'll give it to you again. 877-927-6969. Toll free. You want to be a part of the program? We're live on a Saturday. Always great to have you along with us. Us is me, Johnny C., our producer extraordinaire, Jimothy. What's up, my dude?
Hello. Good morning.
Jimothy, 11 years ago today, right about now, too, we had not slept. 11 years ago today, we were blessed with an amazing little girl.
Really? Is it Haley's birthday?
Haley turned 11 today.
Wow. Happy birthday, Haley.
We were reminiscing a little bit last night, especially so we had to do emergency C-section, and I peeked up over the little blanket thing, and it looked like a triple homicide. I'm pretty certain those doctors were killing my wife.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
When that happened.
They are killing her right now. And it turns out to be this little baby scar. But yeah, 11 years ago, my life completely changed. Get better.
11 years.
That's
oh my
wild,
God.
Dude. Yeah.
She's going to be in college tomorrow.
Yep.
It's
Just
amazing
like
how fast it goes.
the wife goes, 10 more years, she'll be 21. And I was like, oh, good. Thanks for that.
Thanks for that, Mom.
That's fantastic. But yeah, I figured
big happy birthday to Haley.
That is awesome.
Of course, though, you got your starting lineup, y'all. You're very important people on this team, like Ross Komarinetz, Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Hello, my friend.
Hello.
Are
Congratulations.
when I
Happy
say,
birthday.
When I say 11, do you go, oh my gosh?
I mean,
because you got a little growing calendar in front of you as well.
I remember when you had your little one, and seems kind of like yesterday. So
That's wild.
That's a quick 11. The last 4 have been very fast for me. So
they say time is relative. And the older we get, the faster it goes. And,
Dude, it's speeding up quick.
You start to realize it as you get older. And if you do have a little living, breathing calendar in front of you, you go, wow, that's
Living, breathing calendar. I like that.
yeah, it's crazy. I tried many years ago. I was like, what if we stop feeding her? Will she stop growing? She's like, nah, it's not going to work. Pretty sure that doesn't work. Jimmy D is here. That's Jim DePola, our fearless leader. I've told you for 12 plus years, he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Innovations. You find the Florida Home Pros team. Jimmy, you remember that 6 foot tall stuffed bear you got, Haley?
I do.
I want to say it was like a second Christmas. Or
yes, I
third
do.
Christmas.
Did she? I know she's 11. Does she still have it in the room?
We have more stuffies.
Stuffed animals.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that has to be the biggest one.
By far.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a gigantic one. That was bigger than her when I
How
got
big
her.
was it?
It's like all of 6 feet.
All right, I'm gonna get a 7-footer.
It was a gigantic one.
Jim's over here flexing. I got the biggest one.
The funny part is
I love
she's
it.
really into monsters and everything. So I don't know if the cuddly teddy bear was ever her real thing because she's totally into like.
So she had birthday cash. And we were the other day. We're like, all right, let's go get you some things. Of all the stuff, we're like, what are you getting? She got 2 stuffies.
Did she?
Yeah, and they weren't even like horror stuffies.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because that's what we need, more stuffed animals.
Maybe I got a little lucky there.
So yeah, she is a horror buff.
Yeah.
She loves it. 3/4 of her room is like Pennywise and Chucky and you name it. But she's still down for that soft side.
That's so cool. That's cool. Very balanced, right? She's very balanced kid.
So yes.
Hey, just want to do a couple shout outs for just real quick. Linda, thank you so much for checking in. Francis, Joyce, mom,
Aw.
right? Grandma.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to your granddaughter. That's awesome. D. Ryan, thanks for checking in from Riviera. And Freelancer, thanks for checking into the show. Really appreciate it. We got a lot to talk about today. Happy South Florida and welcome to South Florida. What we got next is we're going to talk a little bit about insurance. So we've been the canary in the coal mine way before the canary in the coal. Everybody else was even knowing there was a canary for the coal mine, right?
So true.
About how we were seeing rates going up and also more and more insurance companies leaving. And then they, over about 18 months ago, they changed some regulations in Florida to try to stop some fraud and also to have more responsibility for the homeowner to take financial responsibility for suing the insurance company. That's the way I look at it, meaning that they got to pay their way and not just ride on the backs of the insurance company if they have a claim. We started seeing some relief where some of the insurance companies started coming back into the market, which was good. I have a little bit of stats here to talk about, Ross, from what we did last week. In 2023, the 50 private insurers in Florida, for the first time in 7 years, made a combined $147.3 million net income profit in 2023 for their net income.
That's all the combined?
Yes. But if you take this out, just to give you an idea, those same companies in 2021 and 2022 had a net loss of $1 billion a year. So in 2021, they lost $1 billion. In 2022, they lost $1 billion. And then in 2023, they made $147 million.
And they're extrapolating this is based only on their business in Florida?
No, that's the part I wanted to talk to you about, which I thought was funny. What they said is that, is it this article? They said, one of the articles said that most of their money that they made this year came from the stock market.
It was investments.
It was investments.
But what the underwriting losses have greatly reduced. Well, they've made a little bit of money, but their underwriting losses, instead of being 1.9 billion, were like 100 million.
Right. So, you're
seeing it.
Yeah, we're seeing the changes that they're hoping will happen. I just thought it was interesting that they did show a profit. We have a number now,
So
and it also showed how much the losses were over the last couple of years. Is pretty startling.
Underwriting losses would incorporate not only the cost,
The
for
amount of money
litigation,
that you brought in, the amount of money that you paid out.
so it's going to be everything from litigation through claims, like real legit claims, everything. But
Mhm.
the numbers were so staggeringly slanted in our state to the litigation costs that
Right. Those of the litigation costs in 2022, it was 1.6 billion in litigation costs. This year or last year was 739 million. So it's about half.
yeah, that's
You know,
big difference.
So,
So it's working.
so we hope
Pilots
it's
of it.
working, and that's what we need. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be good for everybody, because what I mean by that is that we're seeing more and more, and we talked about this last week, that there's a lot of other states where insurance companies now are pulling out for various different things. And there's some hard stats that I read this week about it. So I want to continue the talk.
You know what I find it interesting when you cover in this is the differences about how the states are laid out, like specifically us versus California. So we're both having kind of similar woes. They're a little bit behind us, but they actually have caps built in on the state where they don't allow insurance companies to raise rates for certain reasons to certain levels. So the companies there are like, well, we're out then. I mean, it's just, you won't play that way. We're just going to bail on you. Here is a little bit different game, but same woes that are being felt.
It is. And so State Farm now is dumping 72,000 policies in California.
For the very reason that they're like, hey, we can't raise our rates. You can have them all.
Yeah, and the thing is they're just so worried about risk. And I'm really wondering how much of this is also related to what they think is going to be happening with climate change and all that stuff, meaning that the wildfires are going to get worse, the tornadoes are going to get worse, the hurricanes are going to get worse.
They can buy reinsurance for. That's what they buy reinsurance for.
Right, but the reinsurance companies, I think they're worried about it, so they're worried about that risk, so they're passing it on to the insurance companies.
Correct. But so State Farm, all they have to, if that's what the insurance companies are worried about, all they're going to do is pass on that rate increase, not go, all right, we're just not going to insure anymore, because that's the whole model of the game.
Put a rate, if they were to do the rate increases that would make them comfortable, would anybody buy it? Because it's probably going to be so expensive. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's how insurance, that's what's happening here.
Yep.
That's how insurance works.
Yep.
They offer a rate. And if you take, your homeowner's insurance, that you're paying that rate, whatever's offered, if that company wants to charge a higher rate, they can.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll go find somewhere else, or maybe that's still the best rate.
The ones that'll get snatched up are the ones that are more competitive. Right?
But I don't think that a climate change is like a thing of, okay, hey, we're not going to insure anymore, because they, like I said, they buy reinsurance for it.
I'm still just wondering if there's going to become a time where, like, they're going to start stripping out what they'll cover and what they won't, and certain things they just won't cover you for, right? Like, do you think a lender, we'll ask this when Mike comes back next week, do you think a lender cares if you have content insurance or not?
No, they just care.
They don't care.
They just
right?
care that the house itself is insured to 100% of the replacement cost.
Of the replacement cost, yeah. So I think that overall, in the long run, insurance is going to change in the long run of how we do it. I think that eventually, I don't know when, maybe 10 or 20 years from now, maybe sooner, they're going to start saying, we're not giving you new roofs anymore. We're giving you proration on the roofs, and that's it.
Well, that's happening now.
Yeah.
No matter what?
No.
Oh,
that's
okay.
an option with some carriers.
Right. But what I'm saying is that might become the standard. You know what I mean? Where you don't have the full replacement costs and things like that, and it goes like that, right?
Yeah. Well,
you mean as the minimums?
Yeah, like they might just say, we're not giving you full replacement costs for your roof anymore. We'll only give you proration. So if you have a brand new,
last week I brought it up that I got a request for insurance from a mortgage company that said no actual cash value, that specifically on the request for insurance said no actual cash value coverage for the roof. So if that became the norm, you can't get a loan.
Yeah, what mortgage company's gonna be down for that?
Yeah.
This is going to get crazy.
I think it's just going to be an option. It's not going to, or there's going to be, and I don't think it's going to be anymore because of the legislation that was passed, where they really have to say, oh, okay, it's going to be actual cash value. I think that may be an option if you wanted to reduce your premium, just like you could cover your personal property on a replacement cost or actual cash value basis. I think that may be an option. Or, like some companies are offering a separate roof deductible that is the equivalent of your hurricane deductible, typically. So I think that would be the way. I don't think it's going to be a norm of, oh, we're only going to cover your roof at actual cash value. I could be wrong.
So with the profits that the companies made in the article I read, which came from, the article was from, I don't know. It was a local television station from Central Florida. They said that does this mean that we're going to start seeing a drop in rates because the companies are now starting to turn a profit? And they said, no way. That's not happening for a while.
Yeah.
So don't expect rates. In fact, they expect the rates to keep rising, just at a slower rate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So insurance is going to still continue to go up, just not as crazy fast as it has, kind of like what's happened with inflation.
How's that supposed to make anybody feel good?
It isn't. It's just going to continue.
At some point, though, so there's a lot more competition, right? Ross, you're starting to see more and more viable options for homeowners. So at that point, that's what generates the that open market, the competition, and then you start to see probably the rates start to come down. I feel like they're connected. That should be the caboose, right?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, the amount of money that they collect versus the amount of money that they pay out will become higher.
Right.
And at that point, once everybody experiences an underwriting profit, then they can start to, reduce rates, but until they get an underwriting profit.
Yeah, the bean counters are what the bean counters are, right?
Yeah. You got to keep, trying to bring in more money until you can, so you can pay it out.
So our best case scenario is that we continue for at least a couple of years with no real catastrophic storms or big events, and let them continue to accumulate and show some profit. And then we may, but we're seeing, and again, in the last year and a half or 2 years, we're seeing slowly the matriculation of the effects of the changes that are happening. So,
yeah, I mean, it's only been a year.
It was a year now. It's not even 2. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's
December.
should be,
They passed it in December of 22, and it went into effect last year.
that's right, because they had all those last second sneak-ins,
Yeah.
because of the effect of the change of the law.
Yeah, the cases that were already on the docket, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that all had to work its way through the courts. Are they done, do you think, Ross, or are they still getting those through, the ones that were filed prior to the law?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't know if you just maybe heard.
But imagine they're still working on it.
Hey,
It
you would
doesn't
think,
happen,
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
super fast.
Yeah.
But we're seeing the effects. So at least when we can see it a little bit, there is some promise there. Because if we were starting kind of not, and Ross is like, things really aren't moving, I think at that point you go,
I'm writing a lot of policies that are not citizens. I can tell you that.
that's
So
promising.
good.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
That's
Promising.
such good news. Is it
Excellent.
mostly new construction though, Ross? Is there a lot of new construction?
No, I haven't really done too much new construction. More,
Good.
just, if it's not a 20-year-old roof, if it's been updated, starting to see some other carriers be a little bit better than citizens, trying to get that market share. So
That makes me feel good, because the buyers are getting squeezed on so many different levels right now.
Yeah.
So anything we could do, and just regular homeowners, not just the buyers, but just regular homeowners, just trying to keep their costs down.
Well, I read an article, I don't know, early last week. The headline totally made me click through. And as I was reading it, I was like, oh man, and I'm wondering if this is just like a quick snapshot or if this is where we're going. They said in the 50 major metros, rent has now surpassed home ownership as far as affordability. And it's like, oh no, that's a weird.
Wait,
we can't
but
have that.
Was it
Wait,
wasn't
are
that
you
kind of similar to like COVID too? Like COVID times, could rents went up so much, and you could buy a house at 2.5%.
True,
Like,
true.
Yeah.
But homeownership really went up like dramatically. And then when we see that shift now in this time,
are you saying more people are renting?
no affordability,
Affordability, yeah, yeah, yeah.
affordability.
So
Because
you're
it's always
saying that
been,
it's
always
more,
been, hey, you're better off buying if you can, right?
Yeah.
Usually the hurdle for buying is down payment,
right, the down payment.
right?
But the thing is I got to be honest with you. I want to get one of those professors from the real estate schools that are talking about in the papers that the local papers, when they talk about this, about whether or not it's better to be a renter or a buyer. And I really usually,
I always feel like the answer is always buyer.
that's my attitude 99.9 times out of 100
About wealth
usually.
building. It's about,
Yeah, because it's
right,
wealth
yeah,
building. It's a
right,
long ball,
right.
right? But the thing is, I'd really like to talk to them is how they determine why somebody should, I can think of a couple of reasons. Like first of all, can you afford it, right? But taking affordability aside, if you're only going to stay in a place for a short period of time, it might not be worth it. If you're only going to stay there 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of volatility in the market right now, and you might get caught in a down cycle if you have to leave right fast. So I could see somebody saying, I'm only going to be around 2 years and I don't know what's going to happen after that. Might not want to do it, right? But I keep thinking of all these other customers that bought with us in 2021 and 2022.
Heck yeah.
And they paid higher interest rates than the people that paid in 2020. And everybody's like, wow, the interest rates are, because they were in the fives, right? Wow, the interest rates are so high and the prices are so high. I can't believe you're buying a house right now, right? Or that the buyers that were buying at that time, they were so determined to buy, like they were sacrificing, really saving all their money to have the down payment and the closing costs, really wanted to do something. A lot of stress because the competition was so fierce. They were getting beat up on every angle when they were trying to make offers.
They were all able to pull that off too.
And then here's the thing.
Yeah.
Here it is 2-3 years later. Those people have lower interest rates than the rates we're getting now.
Yep.
Right? By a point usually or more, right? Not the crazy low rates I'm talking about, just like in the fives, right? They're a point or more lower. And then on top of it, the appreciation they got.
Oh yeah.
What did we just say last week?
11?
The year over year was 11.3% for Palm Beach County for single family home. Now that's a little snapshot. And I'm not saying that we had true 11% appreciation, but that's still an astronomically high number to have.
Even if you only pulled off the average of 4%, you
Exactly.
still added that equity to your home in that time. Yep.
And you got tax breaks for most people. There were tax breaks involved, and you're building wealth in the long run. So I don't understand the people that are renting for a long period of time that want to buy but don't. If you want to rent, But if you renting, but you really want to buy, I really feel like you're being short-sighted right now.
Yes.
Now, not everybody can afford it.
Right.
You find out the interest rates are high, down payments are important, insurance is high right now. So, and we're being squeezed with condo associations, HOAs that haven't taken care of their properties in the right way or their finances. All those are like triple whammy hits to the buyer.
Condo markets.
But that doesn't mean you can't buy. That just means you have to be more educated and understand everything and find out and know your numbers, have a plan and move forward.
Oh, and you need to be consulted by really good professionals too. People that have your best interests at heart. It's all about your outcome. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
Yeah, I know a place.
Yeah. Well, it's the one-stop real estate shop, right?
That's it.
Yeah, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
And we're just one phone call away, right? All you got to do is go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com and reach out to us. And that phone line is 24/7. I don't answer the phone 24/7.
No, somebody
okay,
does,
we
though.
have an answering service. It's a real people, real life people in the United States will answer your call 24/7. You just tell them what you need. We call you right back.
You'll find the hotline, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. It's 888-973-7828. Write it down, 888-973-7828. Of course, if you didn't write it down, it's at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
Easy to remember.
And we're going to take just a quick break again. And on the flip side, we're going to talk about where people are moving, right? Not just about, is it a good time to buy or sell, but there's a lot of people out there that are calling our hotline number, the 888 number, and saying, I've been listening to your show for a long time. I'm thinking about moving. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to move, or I have an idea of a couple of different states I'm thinking of moving to, but I'm pretty sure I want to do this, but I don't know how it's going to work. And they've been calling us up, and we've been giving them deep consultations of their options. We had 2 of those calls this week.
Awesome.
So we're going to go and talk a little bit about that, and we're going to talk about the trends of where people are moving to. And we're probably going to spend a little time on the next segment talking about the big news that I've been avoiding on purpose, because there's not enough information out there to be fully informed yet, but about that big NAR settlement, the National Association of Realtors settlement, and how it's supposed to be changing the commission structure. We'll talk a little bit about that on the flip side too.
Very good. Still got ample time for your phone calls as well. Toll free at 877-927-6969. You want to dive into what we're talking about? Want to ask a pros pro question on the air? You're more than welcome. Of course, if you're not comfortable on the radio, always remember your resource. That is FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, your one-stop real estate shop. You got pros. Get them all at FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, on Facebook and YouTube as well. Remember, Florida Talk Real Estate. We're back in 4 minutes. Florida Talk Real Estate right here. It's Real Radio.
Be like the smart kids, like the summa cum laude of your workplace.
What?
Tell your smart device to play Real Radio 92.1 on iHeartRadio.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rao from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rao will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rao, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation, because FloridaTalkRealEstate.com has you covered. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Got an hour remaining for you on this Saturday. Thanks for being with us. 877-927-6969. Toll free if you want to be a part of the program. Jimothy will answer that line. Get you going there. What's up, my dude?
Hello, and good morning. Happy
morning.
Saturday.
Yeah, buddy.
How's your bracket?
It's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. I think, I'm not sure the results last night. I had 14 of 16.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah,
not bad.
So not
I'd
bad.
say that's not bad.
Yeah,
Damn.
not bad. But we'll see how it holds up. I got NC State making a deep run.
Yeah. Did you have Alabama?
No.
No.
Yeah,
Really?
no.
Is that one of the couple that tripped you? Huh?
I didn't have a ton of SEC faith this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tennessee is one of the ones I didn't have where they're at right now. They won last night, right? They beat Creighton, didn't they?
I don't know.
Ooh.
I know the girls didn't.
Well,
South Carolina got them on a buzzer beater.
yeah, it's been a interesting tournament. Let's just put it that way. You got the locker room coming up?
Sure do. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Only an hour though, because we got the Florida Panthers coverage starting at noon today. We got a pregame, and then their puck drops at 12:30. So we'll be carrying that game right here on Real Radio 92.1 if you want to catch that.
Excellent. I'm sure plenty will be listening. I'm your boy Johnny C. Ross Komarinetz is with us on this Saturday with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, the only Brightway you should be concerned about. You should know it. What's up, Ross?
Not a whole lot. I think my puck's going to drop right after the show.
Nice. Can we watch?
It's gonna be a scrum.
I mean, do you have an OnlyFans account?
I do.
All right, yeah, then you can.
You sure
Nice. $49.99.
Link in bio.
Well
Now
spent.
I understand the. Can I say
Sure.
the chaps? The word before the chaps that
Yes.
we were talking about.
Assless? Yeah.
Oh, you could
Yeah,
say that.
yeah. You can say
Now I
scumbag,
understand assless chaps why Jimmy knew so much. He has the OnlyFans account. There you go. Now I understand it.
Too. That's how I survive on a radio salary.
It's called sanity, is what it is. Jimmy D's with us. He's our fearless leader. 12 plus years, I've told you, he runs the top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Innovations, you find the Florida Home Pros team. What's up, Jimmy D?
Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about the National Association of Realtors settlement because there's this has been front page news now for, it's kind of dipped off a little bit this week, but the ruling came out about, I think 2 weeks ago, Thursday or something, or Wednesday, about 2 weeks ago. And for 7 or 8 days, it was on the front page and on the top headlines of almost any media you can think of. And being a former media person and usually respect media, the information that was out there was very confusing, even as a former journalist and a professional realtor in the market. Reading the articles is like, where are they getting this from? And I never knew this, and maybe they know more than I know, and all this stuff. And then so being wonky the way I am, I took the Keller Williams Real Estate International live seminar about this. I've watched the Florida Association of Realtors live seminar about this. I've watched the National Association of Realtors live seminar about this, and I've read a ton. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Barron's, Fortune magazine, just read. And this is what I can tell you, okay? First of all, nothing is set in stone yet because there are actually, and people don't know this, there are 3 lawsuits that were out there that have been settled related to this issue. The issue is not about commissions, people. It is not about the 6% commission or anything like that. What it's about is about transparency of how commissions are paid. That's what the big issue was. Okay. Now, the changes that are going to happen, and they will happen, we just don't know exactly how it's going to unfold yet, is right now the way things work is, Johnny, so if you wanted to sell your house today and you sat down with me and I was interviewing for the job to be the listing agent, one of the things that we would do is go over what's called an exclusive listing agreement, where you would be hiring me exclusively to list your property.
Right.
And in that document, they talk about compensation. And in the compensation, they have two sections. The first section is what's the gross commission that you're willing to pay me to sell your house. Okay. Now that gross commission traditionally right now is hovering between 5 and 6% nationally, right? Before it used to be, before the foreclosure crisis, it actually used to be 6 to 7, but now it's closer to 5 to 6. And that's pretty much throughout the country, but you can get discount brokerages and stuff to do it for less than that total gross. But in that document, what's happening there is you're giving me all of that money, that whole 6% or 5% that we agreed to. And then I have to decide how much money I'm going to be giving to the buyer's agent to help me get this property sold. And you're already deciding in that, Jim, I'm going to give you 6% or 5%. And then because I consider this to be ethical, I always promise the seller that whatever you give me, I'm going to split in half and I'm going to offer that to the buyer's agent. So you would agree to that. Let's say it was 6%, 3% goes to me, 3% is being offered the buyer's agent. So then when I write the listing agreement, in the listing agreement, I'm going to put in what's the cooperating broker's commission being offered. Cooperating broker is the buyer's agent. So we're telling, when we put out the listing, the realtors that have buyers that are searching properties for their buyers, as they're going through the listing, they can see what the commission that is being offered for that particular property.
Sure.
Sometimes it's 2%, sometimes it's 2.5%, sometimes it's 3%. I've seen recently as high as 4%, right? Percent. Rare, but I've seen it. And then the buyer knows, the buyer's agent knows, if they go to that property to turn in an offer, that they're going to be paid a commission. Well, there was a series of lawsuits in the breadbasket states like Iowa, Kentucky, Indiana, like that kind of area, where there were some sellers that had filed a lawsuit saying that this is an unfair structure, forcing the sellers to offer a commission to the buyers when the buyer's agent is working for the buyer, and the buyer's agent should be trying to get the lowest price possible with the best terms for their buyer, but the seller's paying that buyer's agent. And they feel that there's potentially a conflict of interest there, but they also feel that it's unfair to the seller to offer a set, like an agreed upon commission, without knowing what the terms that the buyer's bringing. Right. So Johnny, let's say we put your house on the market for $500,000. I'm making up numbers here.
Sure.
And we're offering a 3% commission to the buyer's agent, but the buyer's agent only turns in a $400,000 offer, right? But they're still expecting to get a 3% commission. Well, if you knew that you were only going to get, and let's say that you were thinking of taking that offer for whatever reason, right? Even though it's super low. But let's say that if you knew that you were going to be only getting $400,000 for your property, you might not want to offer 3% to the buyer's agent because that's an extra cost to you, right?
Or you just don't accept the offer.
Or you cannot accept the offer. But the thing is I'm just telling you conceptually what they're concerned about.
But I'm giving you 6% for selling my home. What you do with that 3% is up to you, not necessarily up to me. And you're the one that dictated those terms. So why am I upset about it?
Well, because what they feel the fair way to do it would be is to say, Johnny, here's the listing agreement. I want you to pay me 3% to sell your house. And here are all the services I'm going to do for that 3%. And I'm actually supposed to now put down everything that I'm going to do for you for that sale. Okay. Which we already have that. We already do that.
Yeah,
I've been doing that for 12 years.
I don't know. So nothing's changed.
So, but now you don't put anything in necessarily for the cooperating broker. That clause will be gone. And you are not going to, when you go on the MLS, you are not going to mention that you're offering a commission. Okay. So when I put it on the MLS, I'm going to say, hey, Johnny's house for sale. It's up to sale for $500,000. And that's it.
So you always said though that you had to put something up there
$1
on the MLS. So every time you've explained this, it always felt to me like it was more or less an MLS issue than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you had to put in at least $1 on there, but now you don't have to put anything on there. So
this is a good point, Johnny. So in the lawsuits, and there are 3 of them, so they weren't all exactly the same, but they're all about the same type of issue. The sellers are being taken advantage of.
And the MLS is the multiple listing service. It's where it's the hub for realtors to go and list.
It's the database collector of all the of the history of all the listings that have been bought and sold through the MLS over the years through realtors, right?
But to Johnny's point, how's the seller getting taken advantage of if you're saying, okay, here's the commission is 6%, just say whatever. The commission is 6%. And he signs it. Why doesn't he say, "No, dude, I'm not paying you 6%. There's no way."
You can do that. Commissions are negotiable. They're always been
that's
negotiable.
what I'm saying. What's
where's the lack of transparency?
And who's getting taken advantage of?
The issue is this. Okay, so this is the issue. They said there was collusion. The argument was there was collusion between the MLS, the multiple listing service, which is the data collector, and the information provider for the industry, right? Then you have the National Association of Realtors, which in a way is the union for the realtors. I always say it's a union. Realtors don't like me because I talk differently than regular realtors, but I call them the union, right? They're like the Jimmy Hoffa of the of the process. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. But it's the union, right? And then when the lawsuit happened, the MLS said, we're not forcing anybody to put a commission up for the buyer's agency fee. That was a regulation that NAR, the National Association of Realtors, wanted us to put into our program. NAR then said, we didn't do it. The MLS was the one making us put that fee up.
Right. But
there's a third group now. The third group are the brokerages. And the brokerages, Keller Williams, Remax, Caldwell Banker, all the realtors, they're the ones talking to the seller with these contracts that have been approved by NAR and by the MLS to give to the seller. So they're trying to squeeze. The theory is you're squeezing the seller to make them pay a fee that they might not have to.
But so again, to Johnny's point, before that house even gets listed on the MLS, there's an option for the seller to say, well, I don't want to pay.
To negotiate what you're
to say, I think that is too high and I'm not going to pay.
That happens all the time when we sit down.
So who's getting hurt?
Well, if you say the problem was if you said to the seller, if the seller said to the agent, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent fee, let the buyer pay their fee. Okay. I'll pay you as the listing agent, but the buyer's going to pay their own fee. I'm not paying that buyer's agent.
Okay.
Then MLS won't allow you to put it on the market.
But so
now
then
you're
you
getting
have that
damage.
Conversation with the seller that says,
so now
I can
forced.
put it on for $1. So all you got to do is give this dude $1.
Still forced. Now you're forcing them to do something they don't want to do.
That's as a realtor when you take the $1 out of your pocket and give it back to them and say, "Here's your $1." You know what I mean?
So the thing is we've heard over the last week, we've heard how this is going to be fixed, but I don't believe that we really know for sure. Okay, because I've heard Paul Krasker, the law office, Paul Krasker, right, been a sponsor of the show for a very long time. He just did a series of talks around the South Florida area to the brokerages, giving them advice. He doesn't agree with what Keller Williams International is saying. So even the biggest groups, and Keller Williams is paying $71 million.
And what do they say
as a fine on this? I'm sorry?
What do they say?
Well, here's the thing I heard from Keller Williams, and then I'm going to tell you what I heard from Paul. Keller Williams is saying that from now on, sellers are not allowed to advertise in the MLS through the cooperative broker part how much commission, if anything, they're offering. Now, you can put some type of not very transparent language into the broker remarks.
Even though this is all about transparency.
Right.
Okay.
So
good,
in the
perfect. This is a
broker
great
remarks,
fix.
you are going to be able to say something in the public broker remarks that a commission or concessions are being offered by the seller, but not amounts. And the other thing is, if a seller decides they really want to sell their house and they want to charge an extra or offer an extra high commission to a buyer's agent to try to get their house sold over somebody else's, they're not allowed to do that. Can you believe that? They're not allowed. They only can do it on off MLS advertising, but in the MLS, you can't talk about commission at all.
Oh.
Right? Which I think is actually not transparent.
At all.
Right.
No.
The opposite of.
So the theory is this is how it's going to be. Buyer's agents now have to sign a exclusive buyer's agreement. Almost all of the buyers that we work with, we put in exclusive buyer's agreement.
Yeah, so that's kind of the
But
norm, right?
no, it is not the norm, Johnny. Most over 90% of the agents working with buyers do not put them in a buyer's agreement.
Why would you not do that?
Because people are afraid to ask buyers to sign a buyer's agreement. It's that simple.
Wow.
And I won't get in my car, and neither will my staff,
No way.
until you sign the agreement and we know you're qualified for the loan, because we're protecting you.
Yeah.
Right. And
That's it.
and we're not going to work.
And there's
until no,
terms
we
of the
don't.
agreement. Maybe the agreement's only X amount of months, and it can, they
And you
the
can
contract
cancel at any
end, of
time with no
course.
fee, right?
Yeah.
No penalty to cancel. But we need to know, Johnny, you're going to work with me. You're working with
Right.
me.
I'm not just spinning my
Right.
wheels for nothing.
But now I'm told by National that you have to have that document, or you can't even get in the car to show the property. Because if you don't have that document, the seller doesn't have to pay anything to the buyer's agent, to the buyer's agent. And now the document, and this document already says this, but what it says is, hey, Ross, if I work with you as a buyer, we're at a $400,000 price point. I'm just making up something. I'd like to have a 3% commission as the buyer's agent. I'm going to ask and negotiate with the seller to pay me that fee. But if they don't, I need you to pay that fee, Ross. Or if the seller only gives me some of that money, then you're going to have to make up the difference. That's what the document says today.
Oh.
But because so few people sign those agreements, the way that the judges looked at them is that they were irrelevant because so few people signed those agreements, and they felt that everybody should sign that agreement so that the buyers understood their responsibility, right? Now, what I was told by Paul Krasker at the class is that you don't have to sign that agreement. Most of the brokerages he's going to are not requiring their agents to sign that agreement.
And this is Paul Krasker from the law offices of Paul Krasker.
Who specialized in real estate law for over 40 years down here.
Yes.
He's really well known down here
Yeah.
and very reputable.
He knows.
So
the
he's
thing.
saying, I don't believe what the other people are saying. So this is how up in the air this is what I'm saying, right? As far as saving money, I don't see how this is going to save. It may save sometimes it may save the seller's money. It may cost the buyers extra money now because they may have to pay all or some of their agent's fee in order to negotiate the deal for them. But they don't have to do that. Under this new regulation, the new rules, the buyer could just go directly to the listing agent and work directly with them.
You can do that now, though.
Yeah.
You can do that now, but the thing is the seller, a lot of times the listing agents may not want to work with that buyer unless the buyer is officially using them as the agent, because they're going to have all the responsibility of working with that buyer. And if the buyer goes, look, I don't want to pay you anything, I just want to buy the house, and the seller says, hey, I'm not paying for that buyer fee, now that listing agent is going to have to work with that buyer and, quote, kind of represent them as a transaction broker and have all the legal liability but not be paid anything for it, right? Or I could say to the seller, you don't want to pay me a fee, they don't want to pay me a fee, I'll certainly work with Ross as the buyer, but we're going to sign what's called a no brokerage relationship with Ross. So Ross is on his own. I'm not going to go over the contract with him. I'm not going to make sure that he turns in his deposits, like to call up Ross as a buyer's agent, say, hey, it's time to turn in your deposits. Hey, your inspection period, you got to do this. Hey, your appraisal. Hey, your loan commitment.
Right.
Ross is going to have to do all that by himself, but we're just going to have to hope he performs, right? which I don't think is a good option for sellers. And I'm probably not going to be offering that.
Horrible.
But that's the way it's supposed to work under this new rule, right? So there's a lot of things up in the air right now about it. So
I wish I could see what their end game is. What are they trying to accomplish besides making things worse? Apparently?
Well, here's a funny story. Well, first of all, what people are predicting in the industry is that we're going to lose about a third of the realtors that we have right now. So we're up about 1.5 million realtors in the country. So they're thinking we're going to go down to about 1 million realtors. Now, that's going to be awesome for people like me, because what's happening is we're in a very slow market right now as far as sales. And we were talking about that last week.
Sure.
We only had like 780 single family home sales in Palm Beach County last month. That's less than half of normal. So if we have less agents when all this stuff happens, and then the market picks up back to normal, there'll be 1/3 less agents, but like 50% more business. So that means the agents that survived, theoretically, they're going to do very well.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't get, like, if I had a car and I wanted to sell it, I'd go to John. If I know Johnny, I'd go, hey man, dude, I got to get rid of this car. If you can sell it, I'll give you $1,000. All right, Johnny's going to get his $1,000. What he does, if he had another broker involved, he's works on that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand.
It really is.
You
It's
bring me a
tough thing.
buyer,
Well, listen.
I'll
to
give
how
you the money.
Jackie Ellis, who we're going to get on the show, she's the broker for our office, right? She's the owner of our office, KW Innovations. And Jackie she told us this in the class that she had about what's happening with the changes, right? Really interesting story, because I didn't know this. So she became a realtor in 1989. She said she didn't know anything about real estate before she became a realtor, didn't like have a background in it or anything. So the way that it worked back then, that's the way she thought it always was, right? So back then, this is the way it worked. I was stunned. So Jackie would work with Ross as the buyer. Johnny's the seller. I'm the listing agent for Johnny. Jackie is the buyer's agent. Jackie works with Ross, finds the house for him. Back then, they didn't have computers. They did everything on these booklets that came out once a week. They would find the house for Ross. They'd go look at it. Then Ross and them would sit down. Ross and Jackie would sit down and write a contract. Then she would take that contract and give it to the listing agent for Johnny's house, which would be me, right? So Jackie's giving me the contract. Once she gives me that contract, me and Jackie are now the seller's representation, and Ross doesn't have any representation at all. That's the way it used to be. That's why they don't call, in legal jargon, buyer's agents. You know how they don't call anybody buyer's agents? They call them seller's agents in realty world, right? So you have a listing agent and you have a seller's agent. There really isn't a buyer's agent in Florida nomenclature. You know why? Because that's why they call them seller's agents, because they're selling the house for the seller. The listing agent is the one advertising the house, but Jackie, as the buyer's agent, is really selling the house for the seller. So they're the seller's agent, and there is no buyer's agent. And I never understood why they didn't call buyer's agents, because back then the buyer didn't have any representation. Johnny had 2 representations, me and Jackie. That's crazy town, right?
Yeah, that doesn't feel
so
right.
Then in 93, 94, somebody sued, just like this class action lawsuits that happened today. And what they ruled was that's totally screwed up. You can't have everybody representing Johnny and nobody representing Ross. That's crazy town. Right. So what they did is they stopped that. That was called dual agency, and they shut that down. And then they turned it into what's called transaction brokerage, right? Which is where I have to treat, if I'm a agent, I have to treat Ross as fairly as I'm treating Johnny, right? Even though Johnny's paying me, I got to treat you both fairly, right? And then it changed into what we have today. Back in 93, 94, Jackie said all the old timers were like, this is going to destroy the industry. And everybody pulled out, and they had about a third of the realtors left at that time. Right. And they lost about a third of the realtors. There's also kind of a weak real estate market. Sound a little familiar?
Yeah.
Right. Like today. And they lost about a third. Now, Here it is 30 years, 25, 30 years later from that, 1994, 30 years later, 2024. Interest rate, the real estate commissions people are being paid today, pretty much the same as they were in 94, right? So there is a theory that all these regulations aren't really going to change really anything other than a couple of forms that have to be filled out, and that we have to be more transparent, that the commissions have to be more clearly defined. Because really, think about it, Ross, when you were out buying houses and you didn't have a real estate license, if you were out buying houses, did you really know what your real estate commission, the buyer's agent, was making when they were representing you?
No.
They never talked about it with you because they already had an agreement with the seller because the seller put it out there. So they knew what they were going to get. It was no concern of yours because it wasn't, quote, costing you anything out of your pocket. But the theory is that it is cost.
That you had that if you were a buyer and you were using this, this 20 years ago, before I understood it, I always thought that if you used a realtor, you had to pay them, whether it was a buyer, as a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that you would be responsible for paying that guy.
And now you may have to if the seller doesn't do it.
I think you're going to see the same kind of people that, go for sale by owner, be the same people that, well, I'm not going to pay a buyer's agent.
Yeah.
And that is what I thought of when we were talking about it.
Yeah,
before the show
which is
today.
it's somewhere between 9 and 15% of the people do for sale by owner right now. That's about 9 to 15% of the market, but only about half of them actually close, right? They go on and they fail, right? They go on, they don't sell it, and then they go off market, they give up, right?
Call your FSBOs.
Yeah, well, that's going to be a really big thing. So we don't know exactly how all this is going to work out. I'm worried about a couple of things. So this is what you're supposed to do as a buyer's agent now. I get you into an agreement, right? Say, hey, Ross, look, I'll help you find the house. I want 2.5%. And I'm going to try to get it from the seller. If the seller doesn't, because we don't know what house we're getting. And if the seller doesn't give it to me, I'm going to have to rely on you to do that. Now, I'm also going to have to talk to their mortgage broker to make sure he could afford that extra money.
That's the big issue right there.
That's
cash to close.
So here's the thing. What I'm supposed to do once you sign that agreement, well, I shouldn't say supposed to. The theory is right now, Johnny's the listing agent for a house you want to look at. I got to call up Johnny, the listing agent. Hey, Johnny, I got a very well-qualified buyer. Are you guys offering any real estate commission? Because it's not on the MLS. You can't see it on the MLS anymore. Johnny's going to say, yes, we're offering, or no, we're not. Now, Paul's telling us that we need to get Johnny to give us in writing what the commission's going to be. I will never do that as a listing agent, right? Because that hurts my seller. I don't think, unless I'm forced to, I'm not going to say. So what could happen is.
But isn't this all in the name of transparency?
That's what I'm saying, right? So the thing is, because the seller doesn't know what he wants to offer until you turn in your offer. What happens if you turn in a lowball offer? Then he might say, I'm not paying you anything, right? If you want me to take that number, I'm not paying anything. You get it from your buyer, right? So what's going to happen is if Johnny says there's no commission being offered and you want to see the house and you're in an agreement with me that you have to pay the commission, I got to go back to you and say, Ross, look, I know you want to see that house. I called the seller. They don't want to offer a commission. Do you want to pay me? And you're going to go, no, right? Which I understand. And then I'm going to say, great. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn in an offer. And then we're going to ask the seller. We're still going to ask him anyway as part of the terms, pay me a commission, and this is what I want. And then hopefully we'll go back and forth and negotiate something.
Are you even going to show him that house if he says, no, I'm not going to pay you to see that?
If he says no, then I would say this to him. Well, let's go ahead and see, because I'm ethical. I would go and say, let's go ahead and see it anyway, and let's turn an offer in and see if they'll pay. Okay. Right? Let's see.
So you're going to do it.
I'm going to try.
You're going to do it, but there's going to be a lot of people that.
But if they say no, Ross, you have to
contract,
understand. But if you say no, if they say no, Ross, and I try everything, and they say no, and you still want the house, you're obligated. And now we've talked about this in the buyer's agreement meeting. So it isn't going to be a surprise when we go out in the car, but that could be an issue. And then let's say they say no, they don't want to offer a commission. Johnny says no.
Why wouldn't that be discussed in the buyer agreement meeting too? Like that, shouldn't that all be
Yeah,
established?
I'm going to talk about all of
So
that.
why are we changing it?
What do you mean changing what?
The fact that they're not paying you now. So in the buyer agreement, if they're like, "Oh, I'm not paying you anything," why would you just be like, "Okay, well, I'm not going to represent you as the buyer"?
Oh, well, I wouldn't represent them as the
Right.
buyer at that point. Okay, but I'm talking about the seller. If the seller says they're not going to pay anything, then I go back to Ross and I have to have that conversation with them. They say they're not paying anything. Do you still want to try to move forward in this house? Because you might end up paying the commission, right? Because we don't know. I would turn in the offer anyway and see if the seller pays a commission and try to do that. But the thing I'm concerned about more is, let's say we can't make any of that happen. So does that mean that Ross can't look at a house that he could afford on paper, right? That he could qualify for, but because my broker's agreement is blocking him from seeing that house because he either can't afford it, doesn't want to pay the commission to me. So that's what they call steering people away or to properties based on the commission. You're not allowed to do that as a realtor. You're not allowed. Okay. So if Johnny has a house for 2% commission offered today, and Ross has a house on the market for 3% commission, I'm supposed to show both of those houses. I'm not supposed to just show the 3% and ignore the 2% if they meet the criteria for the seller. I feel like that's not really, it's hard enough to do that in today's world because I do the right thing. I'll show you all the properties, right? But when the regulations change, do you really think the average realtor is just going to go ahead and show you the property if they know that there's a very good chance they're not going to get a commission at all?
I think this is going to cause more problems than it's going to fix.
I really think
now you got to, as
a
a buyer's agent, now you really have to pre-qualify your buyer.
Mhm.
Let me see your bank statement. I want to make sure that you can, that you got enough money for your down payment as well as to give me some money just in case.
And on top of it, we don't know, like everybody's saying, I'm talking to mortgage people, not Mike. Okay. Other mortgage people are telling me.
Why?
Don't
be talking to Mike.
No, Mike doesn't. Mike's answer isn't the answer I'm getting from these other people. What the other people are saying, the other mortgage companies, we're just going to write it as a seller concession. So let me explain how that works. Okay. So let's say Johnny's selling his house, Ross is buying it. We're at 500,000. Everybody agrees. The house appraises, let's say, but the problem is there's a repair that needs to be taken care of, right? Johnny doesn't want to do the repair, so he's going to give a credit at closing to Ross for that repair. Hey, the AC's broken. Johnny doesn't want to fix it, so he's giving Ross a $5,000 credit at closing. Now, he doesn't say when we write in the additional terms, how we normally handle that is we say seller to give buyer $5,000 in concessions to pay for closing costs, down payment, and prepaids, right? And that's where the money would be used. So if you were going to have to spend $20,000 in down payment, closing costs, and prepaids, you only have to come to the table with 15 because the other 5 is going to come from them. That's okay. But now, if the real estate commission is going to be paid, and you put in there, and let's say that the commission is going to be paid by raising the price of the house, and then you give me the difference of raising the price of the offer, okay? So Johnny's house is on the market for 500. We sell it for 505, okay? And then you get 5,000 back, Ross, and then that 5,000 goes to me as my real estate commission. That's basically financing your real estate commission in a way. And I don't know if and it's going to show on the HUD where that 5,000 is going.
But you're financing the real estate commission anyway.
That's true.
In a rate. So, I mean, basically, you just went over the scenario of, well, I turned in a low offer, but now I want to get paid. So now we're going to say it's a higher offer.
Mm-hmm.
We just washed it.
I know, but this is right.
So we're just going back to what you're normally doing, and you're just making it a different line item.
Yep.
That's 100% based on what nothing's ratified yet, but based on what we're seeing, because nobody's given us, all we know is the settlement terms from these 3 lawsuits. And one of the things is all 3 got to sign off, and one of them didn't. They got a settlement, and the judge didn't like the results of it. They thought that the money for the penalties was too low, and they weren't sure that the fixes they were going to do about the contracts was going to be enough. So we don't even know if these 3 judges are going to sign off on this. They might come back and go back to the drawing board, or we want more money, or we don't like the contractual arrangements you're recreating. We want you to do it a different way. And it might go back. So we don't know if this is really going to go into effect July 1st. I don't really think it's going to affect sellers too much. Some sellers are going to get lucky and they're going to pay a little bit less commission than maybe they would have if they weren't more aware about what their options were. But the majority of the sellers, especially as we go from a seller's market to a neutral market, they're going to want to offer a commission, because whether National Association of Realtors likes this or not, because they don't like talking about this, commission sells houses. Okay. Having a higher commission on your house will sell your house over another property. I did it in short sales. I used to offer very high commissions to buyer's agents during short sales, because in Port St. Lucie, Jimmy, there was 6 years inventory up there.
Right.
6
Yeah.
years.
Yeah,
It would
back
take
then.
6 years to sell all the houses based on the sales back
I
then.
remember you talking about that.
People didn't have 6 years to wait for their house to be
Right.
sold. We had to sell their house fast because they were in foreclosure. So we offered a higher commission to entice buyers to bring their buyers to us.
How is that not steering?
That's how lawyers look at it, that's steering. To me, that's advertising. If you're selling a gallon of milk and I'm selling it cheaper than you're selling it, right? There's nothing wrong with that, right? If you're selling it for $3 a gallon and I'm selling it for $2.50, there's nothing wrong with that,
Well,
right?
yeah, but we're not talking about price point for the home. We're talking about commission for the selling agent or the buying agent.
Hey,
Those
if
are
I,
two different worlds.
to me, it isn't. To me, it's just a product you're selling and you're trying to figure out a way to sell it, right? You sell it through advertising. And one of the things you could do is to say, hey, there's buyers, agents out there that have qualified buyers I want them fast. I want to give an enticement. It's no different than the developers when they're slow and they start offering 5%, 6% buyer's agent fees to get their property sold. There's no difference.
Here's
Well, I'm
another.
with you. I just, if they're going to say steering is not legal,
I think this is all
that's the
screwed up.
epitome of steering.
I mean, you go to Best Buy, you got 1,000 TVs. One might be giving you a $25 mail-in rebate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, you're going to buy that one.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you get speakers or exactly.
Yeah.
Incentivizing.
Yeah.
I don't see a problem with it, but if they're going to dub that practice as illegal,
I see probably the super high-end market, that commission may come down a little bit, as and people saying, oh wait, I've been paying you whatever, $1 million, where 500, whatever it is, $500,000 just to, not to minimize it, but just to open the door and take a couple pictures, not to minimize it, where now like somebody might be like, look, whatever, it's 200 grand or 50,000 or, whatever it is in that market. And I'm not going to offer the buyer. And the people who are buying have enough money to pay that. If
in
they
a
want to buy that
super hot
house.
market for the seller and a super hot seller's market, they're going to have that choice. But and that's okay. And when there's a slow market and you need a buyer, what's going to happen is you're going to hire the agent with the best advertising plan. And that advertising plan, when you're dealing with like the expensive homes, $5 million and up, right? You're spending a decent amount of money. You're spending sometimes $20,000 just for advertising the property in a slow market. In a fast market, you don't have as many costs. But in a slow market, you're doing luxury magazines, you're doing all this other stuff that you normally wouldn't do, right? So the sellers in a slow market, I'm going to have those conversations. And what I'm already doing right now to comply with the regulations, I'm coming up with a 3-tier package of different price points so that the sellers could decide, what they want.
I mean, it's going to
as
be
the
like you guys are
services.
attorneys. It's going to be billable hours,
I hope it doesn't get to that.
No,
Yeah.
really.
You're like, hey, I spent
There's a reason why I didn't go to law school.
$15 on your Facebook ad,
Right.
that goes in there. And then, you're like a GC, you get 20% above that.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. There's a lot of agents that are going nuts right now about this. They're predicting doom and gloom. The thing
Because
is
of uncertainty. Yeah.
and this is the thing, nobody knows what they're talking about right now. Nobody. So until we have bits and pieces, but we don't know how all the puzzle is going to be put together. So the bottom line is right now, nothing's changed. It may change sometime in July. It will not be July 1st. It'll be mid-July at the earliest, but I don't even think the changes are going to go into effect then, to be honest with you. And I'm hoping to gosh that that the National Association of Realtors and all the brokerages get together and they start going to these judges and saying, hey, we understand that you want us to change the industry, but I don't think you guys know how real estate works because this is not a good plan. I think this is going to
the judicial system clearly does.
I almost feel like this is what happened. Because this is a Department of Justice thing too. They basically said, look, we think that you guys aren't being fair to everybody, so we're going to smash your system into a million different pieces and you're going to build it back. And we're not going to tell you how to build it back really, but we're betting that it's going to be cheaper for everybody once you build it back. And I'm like, that's a crazy way to do something. Right? Just smash it into pieces and say, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I think it'll prove to be ineffective too.
Yeah. Now, there might be other benefits. What might end up happening is like listing agents might make a ton more money because what they'll do is they're going to work both sides a lot more. Like with me, I hardly work both sides. And Johnny knows this because he worked with me so long internally.
Sure.
Maybe 5% of the time I work the seller and the buyer on the same deal. The reason why, I'm very active in selling the property, so I put it out really fast. I don't hold back hoping to find a buyer. I put it out for everybody, and usually buyers agents find a buyer for me faster than I can find my own buyer. Now, some people look at that as a loss of money to me. That I don't look at it that way. I look like, wow, I got the best deal for my seller, and I'm happy that I got the commission that we agreed to when we started. And if I didn't get extra commission for the buyer side, that's fine with me. But now I'm going to have that conversation. Look, if the buyer comes unrepresented, it's not in your best interest to have a no brokerage relationship and have them take care of everything by themselves with no guidance, right? Why don't you pay me a small fee and I'll make sure I work them and go through the whole
because
thing.
I mean, if you're representing both now, instead of having a split 6%, you're getting the whole 6%. So now you can convince your seller to take a lower price. When originally you were working for your seller thinking you're going to get 3%. Now you've got the buyer on the hook too. So now you're getting 6%. So now you don't need to sell your house for the highest price anymore because now you're making more money. And
Right.
now you just want to get it done at this point. Hey,
Right.
this, your house is only worth 400. Sorry, you got to take this now. Go.
When I hire you as my selling agent, I don't like the positioning of you working for both because I want you to be a pit bull and get me every dollar I can get out of this transaction. I want you to negotiate everything as fiercely as possible, which is one of your very valuable tools. You're a great negotiator.
I can do that as a transaction broker though too. So like if you were the hard seller, let's say, or the hard buyer, right? I only want to buy the house for this, but you got to try to get me the house, right? Or the vice versa. I can be as hard on the other side, even though I'm represented both, but I just can't tell them your negotiation tactics or anything, to the other side or either side. I got to keep all that separate. But if you're representing a strong front, I'll represent that to the buyer. And then the buyer decides how they want to represent back to you. You can do that. I prefer not to do that. Usually I just have a team member work with the other side because I don't want to have that. Now my team is still making the money.
Of course.
It's very transparent, but I'd rather have David, for example, David Stein, work the buyer directly. And that way I know the buyer's good for the money and everything because my team's working it. I don't even have to think about it because they do all my standards. But I don't know what their ultimate price they want to pay. I don't know their negotiation techniques. I leave that to David and let David just present, right? Just like any other buyer, right?
Right.
And that's really, really important. It's really nice. We're getting some we're getting some comments today about this subject, which is kind of nice. First of all, Rob says Ross is the man. So I thought that was
Thanks,
funny.
Rob.
But Susan is a realtor for 34 years, and she says that she's kind of saying the same things I've been saying right now because everything's so crazy. Now, she's been doing this 34 years. God bless her, right? So she's seen a lot of changes in the industry, and she's saying the same thing as I'm saying. We really don't know how all this is going to fold out yet. So all this stuff in the news, it is news that there were settlements. I'm not complaining that the news put it out there, but the end of the 6% commission, this has nothing to do with the amount of the commission. It's just how the commission is talked about and understood by all parties. You can still have 10% commissions.
Yep.
There's nothing stopping a 10% commission right now. I'm not saying you should, but I have seen 4%, 5% in certain communities where there's one community, I don't want to mention it because we have a house, we have a place there, 203 units for sale in that community, right? Just like our unit, right? So people are starting to offer 4 or 5% commissions in that community now to get the property sold.
Yeah.
So commissions are going to be, it's going to be very interesting to see how these changes are. We'll see how it goes.
And they always have been and always will be negotiable.
They always have been negotiable.
Yes.
And I've said that in my script since day one, that commissions are negotiable in Florida. And if you can get me, Johnny, to sell your house for 0% commission, God bless you.
You're a great negotiator.
Right? Yeah, God bless you. And if I can get you to do it for 10%, that's legal, right? It's ridiculous, but it's legal.
Yeah.
Can we retroactively have a class action lawsuit for every new car we bought from a dealership because we could have gotten it for cheaper if we would have asked? You know what I mean?
Right.
And I didn't know
They
how
were
much.
more
I didn't know how
transparent.
much the guy was making.
So pretty crazy stuff. So now let's switch over to one
Florida
of the,
Talk Real Estate is
Sorry,
.com,
sorry.
by the way. Your one-stop real estate shop. If you need pros, we got them all at floridatalkrealestate.com. What you get into next?
Oh, wait. Did we talk about inflation yet? Okay, I want to talk about inflation because I want to talk about credit cards with you. Okay, I read some really interesting stuff. You might already know this, but I was like, wow, didn't know that stuff. So, okay, so the inflation report, which was called what? The PCE, Price Consumer something or other.
Right.
Okay, so that one came out, and basically we have and the articles were kind of funny to me. We have a little bit higher inflation than we did last month, year over year, right? But everybody's okay with it because they expected it, right? That's what anybody said. It's like we're right in with what we expected. So everybody seemed okay with this report. The report shows that our consumer spending jumped from January until now. We were at 0.3% to 0.8%, which is a pretty big jump for consumer spending. And that inflation is kind of it's still going up, but it's at a very incrementally slow rate of going up. And we're not at that mythical 2% inflation. We're somewhere between 2.5 and 2.8% inflation, right? So we're almost at that 2 flat, but we're not there. And based on all that, I was thinking they're going to hold tight on these interest rates, right? Because why would you drop them? The consumer spending is strong. Overall, our unemployment's 3.7%. There's nothing showing that we have anything that's super overheating yet.
Feels like they need to raise them.
Well, I know, right? Just to knock this out, it's like you got to stamp it out. It's like stamping out the fire,
spending, yeah.
right? We haven't stamped out the fire yet. I agree. But I read the articles, and then it says from one of these Wall Streeter guys, yep, so we don't see any reason why they won't drop the rates this June.
Did you just read the article we just read?
Do you understand the words coming out of your own mouth? So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then when I started reading that, they also mentioned when it said consumer spending in these articles that we have the highest credit card debt in the history of the United States, which is 1.1 something billion. 1.13 trillion, right? Credit card debt.
For so many on purchases right now, their APR is and I'm just going to lob out probably a nice middle number, probably 23, 24%.
23 to 29.
Yeah.
Because 29 is the
I was
most
going to
that
say
you
as
could
high
have.
to 27, but we'll go 29. So I'm guessing most people on purchases, your APR is about 23, 24%.
Yeah.
And you wonder how it stacks.
Well, here's the thing. We have the highest ever, right?
we don't stop.
We've hit the trillion a couple of times now for several months, but here's some stuff I didn't know. They said there's nothing to worry about. I'm like, how is that?
Nothing to worry
So
about.
let me read, right.
Keep
But let me
spending.
read you why,
Keep
because this
spending.
is
Just
kind of,
not pay that bill.
let me read this paragraph, which I thought was kind of interesting. Credit card debt has indeed surged in nominal terms, but after adjusting for inflation, it's nearly 20% below the peak it reached in late 2008 when we had the crash. So we're 20% below that peak, right, of 2008, which we crashed. And it says, according to Wallet Hub, this is Wallet Hub analysis of New York Fed data, Americans also seem equipped to deal with their balances. Here's something I thought was interesting. Of that $1.13 trillion of debt, 55% of it is paid off in full monthly.
That's awesome.
So 55% are paying the credit card debt down. I do it. I pay a zero balance.
Debt. I thought that was like carrying.
Me too. So 55%, it's still a half $500 billion.
That's an interesting
but
number.
55% pay off every month. I thought
wouldn't
that was
consider
very
that credit card debt.
No, it's not.
Because debt is when you don't pay it after
Right.
30
So
days.
that's credit card use.
That's usage that's being paid. That's just,
actually that's a very good way to describe it, Jimmy. I think
tool.
Yeah.
it's use,
Okay.
not debt.
Okay.
Yeah. So I pay off mine every month, right? So I use them and just pay them off, have a zero balance, right?
Use
I
it
like
as a good protection for your transactions, and then
I use it for protection, and I like the cash balance back return thing.
the
So,
rewards. Yeah,
stuff
which
like
that. The
I know
rewards.
I'm
I know
switching
they're
back to
trying limit
cash
that
for
stuff.
personal use.
yeah, are you for real?
Yeah.
I used to do everything cash. In fact, when I tried to get a house with Mike when Mike first got here, it's like, you're a ghost. You don't even exist. You're not on the radar at all. It's like, that's because when I had the troubles back during the crisis, I went to cash only on everything. I dumped all my credit cards. I was like, I'm done. I'm living off the grid.
Right.
But now I'm on the grid again. But I like using. Why don't you like using the credit cards? For me, it is the protection and then the bonuses. That's the only reason why I do it.
You're seeing merchants charge for it.
That's
For
true.
one.
You pay.
2, I was, just watching, and if I give you $50 cash, you're going to sprinkle that cash around, and at some point there's still $50 available, right? If I give you $50 on a credit card, the bank takes 1.5%. You spend $50. Now you have whatever 49, whatever it's
47 or whatever.
and then you spend it, whatever you use it as a credit card. Now that 1.5% just got eaten up again,
Yeah.
and all the way down. Now at the end of the bit, there's that $50 is gone. The bank's got it.
That is so hippie-ish of you. I love it. I love it. I'm
Me
not
too.
saying that as a negative
So
thing. That's an
for
awesome
Anything
thing
that
to think.
that I try not to do if I make an in-person purchase for personal use, I'd still use my business credit card just for tracking, but I'm trying to do more cash and
Sweet.
that way
That's
keep cash
beautiful.
alive, because there's going to be I feel like they're trying to push that too, where no more cash.
Oh,
I
yeah.
bought something at the store yesterday. I actually used cash, and I haven't done it in so long that when the guy was giving me back my change and it got down to the coins, I was like, I don't even want the coins.
Now I have them in
Honey,
my car, and
have-
every time I go into a store, I just grab like a handful. I'm not, just a handful, and then go in, and if I have the correct change, awesome. If not, I
Oh, that's
just
cool.
add it back to the car.
I've got like $1,500 of loose change at my house, and I just don't have the wherewithal to either coin it, and I don't like paying 20% or something to use those machines.
What, are you
Is
not
it
going to
that
use a
much?
realtor when you buy your house too?
I don't want to spend $300 to a machine to count the coins.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That
Right.
just seems like a lot. $300 for them to count the coins. I'm like, really? But anyway, I hope everybody has a great
Yeah.
weekend. If anybody wants to count coins for me for less than $300,
I'll do it for
I got a job
$299.
for you.
I'll be over around 3. Around 3, is that good?
But I hope everybody has a good weekend. It is beautiful out there today. It is a nice Florida day.
Yeah, and I know a lot are gonna, have Easter festivities.
Oh, that's
If
right.
you-
Happy Easter,
If you are
everybody.
planning, have a happy Easter. If it's not part of your plans, I hope you just have an awesome Sunday.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be hiding eggs.
Yeah. Yeah. All over your backyard.
Oh, yeah, it'll be everywhere. Yeah. What goes in those eggs? I'm not quite certain yet.
You still got the map, so you don't. Are they real eggs or are they plastic?
No, plastic.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Then
yeah,
you're
we don't
fine.
mess with any of that.
Yeah, we used to do a hard boiled and we'd hide them. And then, of course, there was that one you didn't find and you found it about 6 months later.
Yeah,
when it stunk
exactly.
the house up.
Pretty
then,
cool.
then we started putting a map, creating a map.
Yes. So we don't stumble into that again. I know plastic with some kind of filling in there. I guess I just got to figure that out still.
Tennessee did beat Creighton.
Oh, they did.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much for that.
North Carolina's still in it too, huh?
I think, North Carolina might do a little something. Guess we'll find out.
Yeah, taking on.
Got an hour of locker
Duke.
room coming up next. And we appreciate you being with us every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate is your one-stop real estate shop. It's a .com. It's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful resource. You have all of the team. These are pros. And we call it the one-stop real estate shop for a reason, because when you are going to buy a home, sell a home, you're stuck with a home, you don't know what to do, and everything that touches real estate, you got to have a pros pro. You got to have someone that's really, really good at what they do. That's why we give you that resource, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Know it, use it, love it, share it. You can change lives with FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Ross Komarinetz, Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Have an awesome weekend, my friend.
Thank you. I hope you do too. I hope everybody out there has a good weekend and you find all of your eggs.
Indeed. And I hope they're stuffed with good stuff.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Money.
Jim DePola with the Florida Home Pros team, Keller Williams Innovations. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks, you too, Johnny. Enjoy.
Jimothy will be listening for the next hour. Locker room.
Wonderful. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Johnny. Happy Easter to all three of you, and happy Easter to you as well.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter. That's my Peter Griffin right there. Happy Easter. We do got the locker room coming up next. We will see you next Saturday. 2 hours of infotainment every Saturday before the locker room. It's Florida Talk Real Estate right here on Real Radio.
Happy Easter.